"I'll literally give you the Ferrari if you can even figure out how to open the hood, sweetie," Amanda sneered, her voice echoing through the hotel entrance. Keisha, in her ill-fitting valet uniform, felt her face burn. Her 3 identical triplet daughters watched nervously from the staff bench. Amanda, the billionaire's fiancée, laughed. "Go ahead, try it, mechanic." What Amanda didn't know was that the billionaire himself, David, was standing on the balcony above watching the entire scene. His blood ran cold. He knew that face. It was Keisha. But before we see, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get into the full story. "I can't believe they let you bring your kids to work," said Jenny, adjusting her valet uniform tie. "Peterson would fire me if I asked for the same thing." "I don't have a choice," Keisha Jones replied, glancing at her 3 4-year-old daughters sitting quietly on the lobby bench. "Daycare closes at 6 and my shift runs until midnight. Besides, my girls know how to behave." Zoe, and Zara sat in a neat row, their identical faces focused on coloring books spread across their laps. Occasionally, they would hold up their artwork to show each other, whispering to avoid disturbing the hotel guests. It was 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening in Chicago, and the Grand Pavilion Hotel buzzed with activity. Men in expensive suits and women in elegant dresses streamed through the revolving doors for the annual Business Leaders Gala. The event brought together the wealthiest and most powerful people in the city. Keisha stood at attention near the entrance, her black valet uniform pressed perfectly. At 29 years old, she carried herself with quiet dignity, though her eyes often betrayed her exhaustion. Single motherhood to triplet daughters was challenging enough without working evening shifts at a luxury hotel. "Big night," said Mr. Peterson, the hotel manager, as he approached the valet station. "Every CEO and business leader in Chicago will be here. I need you at your best, Jones." "Yes, sir," Keisha replied. "I checked the girls' supplies. They have snacks, water, and enough coloring books to last the night." Mr. Peterson glanced at the triplets and sighed. "You know I'm breaking policy letting them stay. If the hotel director finds out—" "I know, sir. I appreciate it. I've been trying to find evening childcare, but it's just not in my budget right now." "Just keep them quiet and out of sight," he said, his voice softening slightly. "And Keisha, no mistakes tonight. These people tip well when they're happy." After Peterson walked away, Keisha crossed the lobby to check on her daughters. "How are my little engineers doing?" she asked, kneeling beside the bench. "Mommy, look," said Zoe, the most outspoken of the 3. She held up a carefully colored picture of a red car. "I made it shiny." "Beautiful job," Keisha said, kissing the top of her head. "You 3 remember the rules?" "Stay on the bench," they replied in unison. "No running," added Zoe, the most serious one. "No talking to strangers," finished Zara, the quietest triplet. "Perfect," Keisha smiled. "I'll check on you when I can. If you need anything, Jenny at the front desk will help you." Keisha returned to her position just as a bright red Ferrari pulled up to the entrance. The sleek vehicle caught everyone's attention, including her daughters, who pressed their faces against the lobby window to get a better look. The car door opened, and out stepped a woman with flowing black hair and a tight red dress that matched her car perfectly. Amanda Wilson surveyed the hotel entrance like she owned it, her diamond jewelry catching the light. "Valet," she called, not bothering to look at Keisha directly. She dangled her keys in the air. "Be extremely careful. This costs more than you'll make in 10 years. Keisha stepped forward professionally. "Yes, ma'am. I'll take good care of it." "You better," Amanda replied, finally looking at Keisha and frowning slightly at her uniform. "My fiancé is David Thompson. You know, the CEO of Thompson Technologies? If there's so much as a fingerprint on this car when I leave, you'll be looking for a new job." "I understand, ma'am," Keisha said, taking the keys. As Amanda strutted into the hotel, Keisha gently eased into the driver's seat of the Ferrari. The engine purred to life, and for a brief moment her face relaxed into a smile. Machines had always made sense to her. Ever since she was a little girl working in her grandfather's repair shop in South Chicago, Keisha had understood engines in a way most people never would. She parked the Ferrari with expert precision in the VIP section of the garage, taking an extra moment to check that everything was perfect before heading back to the entrance. Throughout the evening, Keisha parked dozens of luxury cars, Bentleys, Porsches, Maseratis, each one handled with the same care and expertise. Whenever she had a free moment, she checked on her daughters, who remained obediently in their spot, occasionally dozing against each other. "Mommy, I'm hungry," Zoe whispered during one of these checks. Keisha pulled a small sandwich from her uniform pocket. "Here, share this with your sisters. I'll bring more when I can." As the clock approached 11, guests began to leave the gala. Keisha worked efficiently, retrieving cars and earning modest tips. She was just returning from delivering a black Mercedes when she noticed a commotion near the entrance. Amanda Wilson stood with her hands on her hips, face flushed with anger. "What do you mean it won't start? I need to leave now." The other valet, a young man named Tim, looked panicked. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The engine just won't turn over. We can call a tow truck." "A tow truck? For a $300,000 Ferrari? Are you insane?" Amanda's voice grew louder, attracting attention from departing guests. Keisha glanced at her daughters, who were watching the scene with wide eyes. She hesitated, then stepped forward. "Excuse me, ma'am." "Maybe I can help?" she offered. Amanda turned, her eyes narrowing as she recognized Keisha. "You? Help with my Ferrari?" She laughed loudly. "What exactly do you think you can do that he couldn't?" "I'm a trained mechanic," Keisha said quietly. "I worked in auto repair for 10 years before—" "A mechanic?" Amanda interrupted, looking Keisha up and down with obvious disbelief. She turned to address the growing crowd of onlookers. "Everyone, the valet girl, thinks she's a Ferrari mechanic." People chuckled, and Keisha felt her face grow hot. She could see her daughters watching, their small faces concerned. Amanda's red lips curved into a mocking smile. "I'll tell you what, I'll literally give you the Ferrari if you can even figure out how to open the hood, sweetie." More laughter rippled through the crowd. Keisha stood motionless, humiliation washing over her. High above on the mezzanine balcony overlooking the lobby, David Thompson paused in conversation with his business partner. His attention had been caught by the commotion below, but it was the valet woman who made him freeze mid-sentence. Even from this distance, he recognized her immediately. "Keisha?" he whispered, his drink nearly slipping from his fingers. "You know her?" his partner Marcus asked, following his gaze. David didn't answer. His mind raced back 5 years to the talented mechanic he had dated, the woman who had fixed his vintage Corvette when 3 other shops had failed, the woman he had left behind for a business opportunity in New York. His eyes moved from Keisha to the bench where 3 little girls sat watching the scene. They looked about 4 years old. His heart began to pound as he noticed their features, the shape of their eyes, the curve of their smiles. Features that looked remarkably like his mother's, like his own. "Excuse me," David said abruptly to Marcus, heading for the stairs. He needed to get down to the lobby immediately. Meanwhile, Keisha took a deep breath and stepped forward toward the Ferrari, her head held high despite the mocking laughter around her. Keisha walked toward the bright red Ferrari with steady steps. The crowd parted as she approached, some people whispering, others openly smirking. She could feel her daughter's eyes on her back, watching their mother face the mockery. "Make sure you don't scratch it with your nails, honey," Amanda called out, earning more laughter from the onlookers. Keisha ignored the comment. She reached the Ferrari and easily located the hood release lever inside the car. With a soft click, the hood popped open, silencing some of the laughter. She lifted it and secured it in place with practiced movements. "Lucky guess," Amanda muttered, her smile fading slightly. Keisha leaned over the engine, her trained eyes quickly scanning the components. She spotted the issue almost immediately: a loose connection in the electrical system. Without hesitation, her fingers moved to the problem area. "Someone hand me a clean cloth, please," she said calmly. Tim, the other valet, rushed to provide a microfiber cloth from his pocket. Keisha used it to grip a disconnected cable and firmly reattached it to its terminal. She checked 2 other connections, tightening them slightly. "Try it now," she said, stepping back from the car. Amanda crossed her arms, clearly not expecting this turn of events. "Tim, start the car," she ordered, avoiding eye contact with Keisha. Tim slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The Ferrari's engine roared to life immediately, its sound powerful and perfect. A murmur of surprise and appreciation spread through the crowd. "Well, look at that," someone said. "The valet girl actually did it," another voice added. Amanda's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. "Lucky guess," she repeated loudly. "Anyone could have fixed that." "So, about your promise?" Tim started to say with a grin. "Oh, please," Amanda snapped. "It was obviously a joke. I'm not giving away my car to a hotel employee." She snatched the keys from Tim's hand. "Now move aside. I'm leaving." The crowd's mood shifted. Several people frowned, exchanging uncomfortable glances at Amanda's clear dishonesty. "Mom fixed it," Zoe's excited voice carried across the lobby as the little girl jumped off the bench. Her sisters followed as they ran toward Keisha, forgetting the rules about staying put. Just then, David pushed through the last few people in the crowd, slightly out of breath from rushing down the stairs. He stopped abruptly when he saw Keisha up close, confirming it was indeed her. His eyes moved to the 3 identical little girls running toward her, and his heart seemed to skip several beats. "Keisha?" he said, his voice both question and statement. Keisha looked up at the sound of her name and her face froze in shock. "David." Amanda looked between them, confusion replacing her anger. "You know each other?" The triplets reached Keisha, wrapping their arms around her legs. David couldn't help staring at them, noticing how one had his mother's exact eye shape, how another had his smile, how all 3 had something of him in their faces. "Girls, please go back to the bench," Keisha said quickly, her voice tight with tension. "I'll be right there." "But Mom, you fixed the fancy car," Zoe protested. "Zoe, please." "Take your sisters back now," Keisha insisted. Reluctantly, the girls obeyed, though they continued to look back over their shoulders as they returned to their bench. "How do you know my fiancé?" Amanda demanded, stepping between David and Keisha. David seemed unable to form words, still staring at the retreating children. Keisha straightened her uniform, composing herself. "We're old acquaintances," she said flatly. "Excuse me, I need to get back to work." "Keisha, wait," David finally managed, reaching toward her. "I have nothing to say to you," Keisha replied quietly. "It's been 5 years, David." She turned and walked away, head held high, despite the whispers all around them. Amanda grabbed David's arm. "What is going on? How do you know the valet girl?" "Not here," David said, still watching Keisha as she rejoined her daughters. "Let's go." "Oh, we're definitely going," Amanda hissed. "And you're going to explain exactly how you know that woman and why you're looking at her like that." They left through the front entrance, Amanda fuming silently as the Ferrari was brought around again. David barely noticed the drive back to their penthouse apartment, his mind racing with calculations and possibilities. 4 hours later, after her shift ended, Keisha sat in her old Toyota in the employee parking lot, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. The triplets were asleep in the back seat, buckled safely in their car seats. "Why are we not going, Mommy?" Zara asked sleepily, the only one still awake. Keisha wiped a tear from her cheek. "Just a minute, sweetie. Mommy needs a moment." She hadn't expected to ever see David Thompson again. 5 years ago, he had left suddenly for New York, promising to call, promising they'd make it work long distance, but the calls never came. When she discovered she was pregnant weeks later, she'd tried desperately to reach him. His assistant had blocked her calls, saying Mr. Thompson wasn't accepting personal communications during his important transition to the New York office. By the time she learned she was carrying triplets, she had given up trying. She had raised her daughters alone, working first as a mechanic until her grandfather's shop closed after his death, then taking whatever jobs she could find that would accommodate her complicated schedule as a single mother. And now, tonight, her daughters had seen their father for the first time, and he had seen them. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Zara asked, more alert now. Keisha took a deep breath and started the car. "I'll tell you when we get home, sweetie. It's been a long night." In their luxury apartment across town, David stood at the window, looking out at the Chicago skyline. Amanda had yelled for nearly an hour before storming off to the guest bedroom, demanding space. He had told her only the basics, that he and Keisha had dated briefly 5 years ago before he moved to New York. He didn't mention his suspicions about the children. He needed to be sure first. David pulled out his phone and opened his calendar, scrolling back 5 years. He had left Chicago in February. If those girls were his, and he was almost certain they would have been born around November. They looked about 4 years old, which matched the timeline perfectly. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Everything okay? You disappeared from the gala. Call me." David put the phone down without replying. He had more important things to figure out. Why hadn't Keisha told him about the pregnancy? Had she tried? If those girls were his daughters, he had missed 4 years of their lives already. He made a decision. Tomorrow, he would go back to the hotel. He needed to talk to Keisha. He needed to know the truth. And if those beautiful little girls with his mother's eyes were indeed his children, he would do whatever it took to be part of their lives. Looking at his reflection in the window, David barely recognized himself. Just hours ago, he had been a successful CEO engaged to a beautiful socialite, his life following a clear, predetermined path. Now everything had changed with a single moment, a single recognition across a crowded hotel lobby. Zoe, and Zara. He whispered their names, testing how they felt. Something inside him already knew. They were his. And somehow, he would make this right. At 7 o'clock the next morning, David was already dressed in his business suit. He called his assistant to clear his schedule for the day. "Sir, you have the board meeting at 10, his assistant reminded him. "Reschedule it," David said. Something important came up. He arrived at the Grand Pavilion Hotel just before noon when he knew the valet shift would be changing. He waited in his Blacktown car across the street, watching the employee entrance. After 20 minutes, he spotted Keisha walking in, wearing her uniform. She looked tired. Her shoulders slightly slumped until she reached the door, where she straightened her posture and lifted her chin. David waited another 10 minutes before entering the hotel. He approached the front desk. "Good afternoon," he said to the receptionist. "I'd like to speak with one of your valets, Keisha Jones." The young woman at the desk looked surprised. "I'm not sure if she's available during her shift, sir. Perhaps I could help you with something?" "It's a personal matter," David insisted. "Please just tell her David Thompson would like a word." The receptionist's eyes widened at his name. "Of course, Mr. Thompson." One moment. 5 minutes later, Keisha appeared in the lobby, her face carefully blank. "Mr. Thompson," she said formally, "how can I help you?" "Can we talk somewhere private?" David asked. "I'm working," Keisha replied, "and I have nothing to say to you." "Please, Keisha, 5 minutes." She looked at her watch. "I get a break in 2 hours. I'll meet you in the parking garage, level 2. David nodded. "Thank you." For the next 2 hours, David sat in the hotel restaurant, barely touching his coffee. His phone buzzed repeatedly with messages from work and from Amanda, but he ignored them all. When it was time, he made his way to level 2 of the parking garage. Keisha was already there, standing with her arms crossed. "Your 5 minutes starts now," she said coolly. David took a deep breath. "Those girls, your daughters, they're mine, aren't they?" Keisha didn't flinch. "Yes, they are." Even though he had suspected it, Hearing her confirm it made David feel dizzy. He leaned against a concrete pillar for support. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked quietly. Keisha's eyes flashed with anger. "I tried. I called your office 20 times after you left. Your assistant said you were too busy building your new life in New York to be bothered with personal calls." "What? I never told her to say that." "Well, she did. I even went to your office in person. Security wouldn't let me in. I wrote letters. Nothing." David ran a hand through his hair. "Keisha, I swear I didn't know. If I had known you were pregnant..." "What would you have done, David? Come back? Given up your big opportunity?" Keisha shook her head. "It doesn't matter now. My break is over." She turned to leave. "Wait," David called. "Please, I want to meet them properly. I want to be part of their lives." Keisha paused. "They've been fine without you for 4 years." "They're my daughters too," David said. "I've already missed so much. Please don't make me miss more." Something in his voice made Keisha turn back. "I need time to think about this. It's not just about you and me." "I understand. Here's my direct number," David said, handing her a business card. "Call me when you're ready to talk." The next day, Amanda sat in her office at the Wilson Family Foundation, scrolling through her tablet. She had hired a private investigator to look into Keisha Jones after David's strange behavior at the gala. "Miss Wilson?" Her assistant appeared at the door. "I have that information you requested." Amanda smiled tightly. "Bring it in." The assistant handed her a folder, the background check on Keisha Jones. "It's all there." Amanda opened the file and began reading. Keisha Jones, 29 years old, single mother to triplet girls, previously worked as a head mechanic at Jones Family Auto Repair in South Chicago until the shop closed following her grandfather's death. Excellent references from former customers. Multiple applications to Thompson Technologies' automotive division over the past 4 years, all rejected. Amanda's eyes narrowed at the last part. She picked up her phone. "Get me a meeting with Sharon Davis at Thompson Technologies HR today." 2 hours later, Amanda sat across from Sharon Davis, the HR director at Thompson Technologies. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," Amanda said sweetly. "As David's fiancée, I like to understand all aspects of the company." Sharon nodded nervously. "Of course, Miss Wilson. How can I help?" "I'm curious about your hiring process, particularly for the automotive division." Amanda slid Keisha's file across the desk. "This candidate applied multiple times and was rejected despite excellent qualifications. Why is that?" Sharon looked uncomfortable as she glanced at the file. "We have many qualified applicants." "Please don't waste my time," Amanda cut in. "Is there a policy I should know about?" After a moment of silence, Sharon spoke quietly. "There's an unofficial practice. Certain applications get flagged for additional review. Based on what criteria? Names that sound diverse. Women applying for traditionally male positions. People from certain zip codes." Amanda sat back, smiling. "I see. Thank you for your honesty, Sharon. This stays between us." That evening, Keisha sat at her small kitchen table with her friend and neighbor Tamika. The triplets were playing in the living room. "He just showed up at my job," Keisha explained. "He wants to meet the girls officially." Tamika sipped her coffee. "Are you going to let him?" "I don't know," Keisha admitted. "What if he disappears again?" The girls would be heartbroken. "But what if he doesn't?" Tamika asked. "Those girls deserve to know their father, especially one who wants to be in their lives." "He's engaged, Tamika, to that awful woman from the Ferrari. What kind of stepmother would she be?" "That's not your problem. Your job is to do what's best for your daughters." Tamika reached across the table and took Keisha's hand. "They ask about their daddy, don't they?" Keisha nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "All the time. Then give them a chance to know him." After Tamika left, Keisha watched her daughters playing. Zoe was building a tower with blocks, directing her sisters with confident authority. Zoe was carefully following instructions, making sure each block was perfectly aligned. Zara was adding decorative touches, making the simple tower beautiful. They all had parts of David in them. Zoe had his leadership. Zoe had his attention to detail. Zara had his creativity. They deserved to know where these gifts came from. Keisha picked up her phone and dialed the number on David's card. The following Saturday morning, Keisha arrived at Lincoln Park with the triplets. She had dressed them in matching purple jumpers, though each wore different colored shoes to help people tell them apart. Red for Zoe, blue for Zoe, green for Zara. "Why are we meeting a special friend?" Zoe asked as they walked toward the playground. "Is he nice?" Zoe added. "Will he play with us?" Zara wondered. Keisha took a deep breath. "Yes, he's nice. And yes, he wants to play with you. He's someone very important." She spotted David sitting on a bench near the swings. He was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking nervous. Beside him were 3 identical teddy bears. "There he is," Keisha said, pointing. The girls suddenly turned shy, partially hiding behind her legs as they approached. David stood up, clearly emotional at seeing them up close. "Hi," he said simply. "Girls," Keisha said gently, "this is David. He's your father." The triplets stared at him with wide eyes. David knelt down to their level, holding out the teddy bears. "I brought these for you," he said. "I wasn't sure what you liked." Zoe, always the bravest, stepped forward first. "I'm Zoe," she said, taking a bear. "I'm the oldest by 2 minutes." "I'm Zoe with a Y," the second girl said quietly, accepting the second bear. "I'm Zara," the third whispered, reaching for the last bear. "Are you really our daddy?" David looked up at Keisha, who nodded slightly, then back at the little girl. "Yes, Zara, I am." "Where have you been?" Zoe asked directly. David swallowed hard. "I've been away, but I'm here now, and I'd really like to get to know all of you." "Do you know how to push swings?" Zoe asked. David smiled. "I'm an expert swing pusher. Would you like to try?" The girls looked at Keisha for permission. When she nodded, they ran toward the swings with David following. Keisha watched as he carefully helped each girl onto a swing and began pushing them gently, listening intently to their chatter. As she sat on a nearby bench, Keisha's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and was surprised to see a call from Thompson Technologies' HR department. "Hello?" she answered. "Miss Jones? This is Sharon Davis from Thompson Technologies Human Resources. We've reviewed your previous applications, and we'd like to invite you for an interview at your earliest convenience." Keisha watched David laughing with their daughters as the unexpected call continued. She had no idea that across town, Amanda Wilson was setting events in motion that would soon change all their lives. Keisha stared at her phone in confusion after the call ended. Thompson Technologies wanted her for an interview? After 4 years of rejections? "Mommy, look how high!" Zoe called from the swings where David was pushing all 3 girls. "I see you, sweetie. Be careful," Keisha called back, tucking her phone away. After an hour at the playground, David approached Keisha while the girls climbed on the jungle gym. "They're amazing," he said, sitting beside her on the bench. "So smart, so different from each other." Keisha nodded. "They are." "I just got a strange call," she added after a pause. "Thompson Technologies wants me to come in for an interview, after rejecting me for 4 years straight." David looked away quickly. "That's great news." Keisha studied his face. "Did you have something to do with this?" "I might have mentioned to HR that they should review your application," he admitted. "David," Keisha sighed, "I don't want special treatment. I want to earn my position." "You will. Just get through the door first. The interviewers don't know you have any connection to me." Before Keisha could respond, Zara ran over with a scraped knee, and the conversation shifted to Band-Aids and hugs. 3 days later, Keisha sat nervously in the Thompson Technologies lobby. She wore her one good pantsuit and carried a portfolio of her certifications and work samples. "Miss Jones?" A young receptionist approached. "They're ready for you in conference room A." The interview panel consisted of 3 people: the head of engineering, a senior mechanic, and a human resources representative. For 2 hours, they grilled Keisha on everything from engine diagnostics to team management experience. "Your knowledge of luxury vehicle systems is impressive," said the engineering head. "Where did you learn about Ferrari electrical configurations?" "My grandfather's shop specialized in high-end repairs," Keisha explained. "I worked on everything from Bentleys to Lamborghinis." Unknown to Keisha, David watched through a one-way glass window, smiling proudly as she handled each technical question with expertise. That same afternoon, Amanda Wilson sat at a small table in a downtown coffee shop. Across from her was a thin man in a gray suit. "Mr. Parker, I need to know everywhere David goes when he's not at work or with me," Amanda said, sliding an envelope across the table. "Especially if he meets with a woman named Keisha Jones." The private investigator opened the envelope, counting the cash inside. "I'll need a recent photo of Mr. Thompson and this Jones woman." Amanda pulled out her phone, showing him a picture of David. Then she swiped to a screenshot from social media showing Keisha. "Daily reports, please. Start immediately." On Saturday morning, David waited outside an ice cream shop in Lincoln Park. He checked his watch repeatedly until he finally saw Keisha approaching with the triplets. "Daddy!" Zoe called out, breaking free from Keisha's hand and running to him. Her sisters followed quickly behind. The word "daddy" hit David with unexpected force. It was the first time any of the girls had called him that. "Hello, my amazing girls," David said, kneeling to hug them. "Ready for ice cream?" After they were seated with their treats, Zoe pointed at David's chocolate cone. "Mommy says ice cream is sometimes food, not everyday food." "Your mommy is very smart," David agreed, winking at Keisha. "Can we go to your house after?" Zoe asked. David glanced at Keisha, who shook her head slightly. "Not today," he said gently. "But maybe we could go to the Children's Museum instead?" From across the street, Mr. Parker snapped photos with a telephoto lens, capturing the family-like scene. Later that evening, Amanda flipped through the photos on her tablet, her face growing increasingly tight with anger. David with Keisha and 3 identical little girls, all eating ice cream. David carrying one child on his shoulders at the museum, David helping another tie her shoes. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Working late. Don't wait up." Amanda checked the tracking app she had secretly installed on his phone. He was at Thompson Technologies, as claimed. She had already confirmed with her private investigator that Keisha was working her valet shift tonight. Maybe this was nothing serious, just David feeling sorry for some woman from his past and her children. Still, she decided it was time to move things along. She opened her wedding planning app and changed their tentative date from next year to 3 months from now. Then she texted her father, "Need to talk about David and the company. Breakfast tomorrow?" The following Wednesday, Keisha arrived at the hotel for her shift to find Jenny waiting eagerly near the employee entrance. "There she is, Thompson Technologies' newest employee," Jenny said loudly. Keisha froze. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb. Tim saw you going into their building for an interview last week, and now Karen in scheduling says you gave your 2 weeks' notice." "I haven't accepted any job offer," Keisha said, though it was true that Thompson Technologies had made an impressive offer yesterday, nearly 3 times her current salary. "Sure," Jenny smirked. "Nothing to do with your rich boyfriend who keeps showing up here." "He's not my boyfriend," Keisha muttered, heading to her locker. Shortly after her shift began, Mr. Peterson called Keisha into his office. "Jones, we need to talk," he said, closing the door. "Staff are talking." "About you and Mr. Thompson." Keisha sighed. "It's not what people think." "I don't care what it is," Peterson said, "but fraternizing with hotel guests, especially prominent ones, reflects poorly on the Grand Pavilion." "He's not a guest. He's the father of my children," Keisha stated firmly, "and my personal life is my business." Peterson's eyes widened. "Just keep it professional while you're on property, Jones." That evening, Keisha sat with Tamika at her kitchen table after the girls were asleep. "They offered me $105,000 a year," Keisha said, still stunned by the number. "Plus, benefits and flexible hours." "Girl, take the money," Tamika exclaimed. "Do you know what you could do for those girls with that kind of salary?" "But what if it's just because of David? What happens if things go bad between us?" Tamika shook her head. "Stop finding problems. They're not hiring you because of David. They're hiring you because you're good. You've been fixing cars since you were 10 years old." Keisha sighed. "The girls already call him Daddy." "It happened so fast. What if he disappears again? Has he given you any reason to think he will?" "No, but nothing. The man is there for his kids. Let him be there." Across town, David sat with Marcus at a quiet bar. "Amanda's father called me today," Marcus said, sipping his drink. "He wanted to check in about the company's direction." David frowned. What did he really want? "To remind me that his $20 million investment comes with strings." Marcus leaned forward. "David, he knows something's up. Amanda's moved your wedding date. Either you need to fully commit to her, or you need to end it. This middle ground is dangerous for the company." "I can't just abandon Keisha and the girls now that I've found them," David said. "I'm not saying you should. But Amanda's father can pull his funding and take several major clients with him." Marcus signaled for another round. "You have maybe 3 months before he forces your hand." David rubbed his temples. "I've offered Keisha a job at Thompson. She's brilliant, Marcus. She should have been working for us years ago." "Did she accept?" "Not yet. I think she's worried about the complications." "Smart woman," Marcus noted, "because there will be complications." The following Sunday afternoon, David met Keisha and the triplets at a different park, farther from the city center. The girls immediately ran to the swings, their favorite playground equipment. "I need to give you my answer about the job," Keisha said as they watched the children play. "And?" David asked. "I'm going to take it," she decided, "but I want it in writing that my position doesn't depend on whatever this is between us." David nodded. "I understand. I'll have HR draw up a special clause in your contract." He hesitated. "Keisha, there's something else we need to discuss." "About Amanda." "Your fiancé," Keisha said flatly. "Yes, things are complicated. Her father is a major investor in my company." Keisha's face hardened. "So this is a business discussion now? About what's best for your company?" "No, that's not what I—" David stopped mid-sentence, his eyes fixed on something behind Keisha. Walking purposefully toward them across the grass was Amanda, wearing large sunglasses and a determined expression. "David?" Amanda called out, her voice carrying across the playground. "What a surprise finding you here." The triplets stopped swinging, watching the approaching woman with curious eyes. "Is that the mean lady from the hotel?" Zoe asked loudly. David stood up, his face pale. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" Amanda removed her sunglasses, her eyes moving from David to Keisha to the 3 little girls who all shared David's smile. Amanda stared at the 3 little girls, her eyes narrowing as she took in their features. "David," she said in a cold voice, "why do these children look exactly like your mother?" The playground seemed to go quiet. Even the other families nearby sensed the tension and moved away slightly. "Amanda, this isn't the place," David said quietly. "I think it's exactly the place," Amanda replied, crossing her arms. "I've been following you for weeks. Ice cream dates, museum trips, playground meetups with your old friend from the hotel." She made air quotes with her fingers. Keisha stood up, moving toward the triplets. "Girls, come here, please." Zoe, and Zara ran to their mother, suddenly shy in Amanda's presence. "Amanda, please," David tried again. "We can discuss this privately." "Are they yours?" Amanda demanded, her voice rising. Just tell me the truth for once. Are these children yours?" Other parents were staring now. One mother herded her own children away from the scene. David looked at Keisha, who gave him a small nod. There was no point hiding anymore. "Yes," he admitted, standing tall. "They're my daughters." Amanda's face flushed red. "Your daughters? You have 3 secret children with the valet girl and didn't think to mention this before our wedding?" "Mommy, why is she yelling?" Zara asked, her small voice trembling. "It's time to go home," Keisha said firmly, gathering her purse. "Say goodbye to Daddy." "But we just got here," Zoe protested. "I said we're leaving," Keisha insisted. "Now." "Bastard children," Amanda muttered, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Keisha whirled around, her eyes flashing with anger. "What did you just call my daughters?" "You heard me," Amanda sneered. "Did you really think David would choose you and your little accidents over me? Over our life together?" "That's enough!" David stepped between them. "Amanda, you're upset, but you will not speak about my children that way." Tears welled in Zoe's eyes. "Daddy, are we accidents?" Keisha knelt down, pulling all 3 girls into a hug. "No, baby. You are the most wanted, most loved children in the world." She looked up at David. "We're leaving. You need to figure out your life before you're part of ours again." She stood, taking the girls' hands and leading them quickly toward the parking lot. "Keisha, wait!" David called, but she didn't turn back. When they were gone, Amanda pulled off her engagement ring and threw it at David's chest. It bounced off and fell to the grass. "How long have you known about them?" she demanded. David bent to pick up the ring. "I just found out 2 weeks ago at the hotel gala." "And you didn't tell me?" "It wasn't a question. I needed time to process it myself," David explained. "I needed to be sure." Amanda laughed bitterly. "Well, they certainly look like you." "Congratulations, David. You have an instant family with the help." "Don't call her that. Here's your choice," Amanda said coldly. "You can have me, our wedding, and your company with my father's continued support. Or you can throw it all away for the valet and her children. You can't have both." She turned and walked away, leaving David alone in the middle of the playground. 2 hours later, David sat in his office at Thompson Technologies, staring blankly at his computer screen. He had tried calling Keisha 5 times, but she wasn't answering. Marcus knocked on his open door. "I heard about what happened at the park. Amanda's father just called me." "Already?" David sighed. "That was fast. He wants an emergency meeting tomorrow morning." Marcus entered and closed the door. "David, there's something else you need to know." "What now?" Marcus sat down across from him. "I've been investigating our hiring practices since you mentioned Keisha's rejected applications. It's worse than I thought." He placed a file on David's desk. "For the past 5 years, our HR department has been systematically rejecting candidates based on their names, addresses, and backgrounds, primarily women and minorities." David opened the file, his face darkening as he scanned the contents. "How did I not know this was happening in my own company?" "Sharon Davis implemented these unofficial guidelines shortly after she was hired," Marcus explained. "She claims she was trying to maintain the company culture. By rejecting qualified people because of their gender or race?" David slammed the file shut. "This ends now. I want her fired first thing tomorrow." "Already done," Marcus confirmed, "but there's more cleanup needed. Dozens of qualified candidates like Keisha were turned away. We need to address this publicly." David nodded, his mind racing. "Draw up a complete overhaul of our hiring policies and contact every candidate who was unfairly rejected. Offer them interviews." As Marcus left, David tried Keisha's number again. Still no answer. Across town, Keisha sat on her living room floor with her daughters. They were playing with building blocks, but the mood was subdued. "Mommy, why was Daddy's friend so angry?" Zoe asked, carefully stacking a blue block. Keisha sighed. "She was surprised to meet you, that's all." "She called us a bad word," Zoe said, frowning. "I heard her." Sometimes adults say mean things when they're upset, Keisha explained. It doesn't make it right. Will we see Daddy again? Zara asked quietly. Keisha's heart ached at the question. I don't know, sweetie. Her phone buzzed for the 6th time with David's call. She ignored it. Instead, she picked up her laptop and opened her email. The job offer from Thompson Technologies sat in her inbox, still unanswered. She clicked reply and began typing a rejection letter. After today's scene, working at David's company seemed impossible. After putting the girls to bed, Keisha called Tamika. It was a disaster, she explained, recounting the park confrontation. So, what are you going to do? Tamika asked. I turned down the job at Thompson, Keisha said. I'm going to try for a small business loan instead. Open my own repair shop like my grandfather had. With what collateral? You know banks don't easily give loans to single mothers. I have to try, Keisha insisted. I can't depend on David. He has another life, Tamika. A fiancé, a company to run. Had a fiancé, Tamika corrected. From what you told me, that relationship is over. Maybe. But I can't build my future on maybes. The next morning, David sat in the conference room facing Harold Wilson, Amanda's father. The older man's face was set in stern lines. $20 million, Harold said without preamble. That's what my investment in Thompson Technologies is worth today. David nodded. Yes, sir. My daughter comes home yesterday crying, saying you've been hiding children from her. Secret children with a hotel worker. Harold's voice dripped with disdain. Is this true? I recently discovered I have daughters from a previous relationship, David replied carefully. I didn't hide them. I didn't know about them until 2 weeks ago. Convenient timing, Harold scoffed. Just months before your wedding. The timing wasn't my choice. Harold leaned forward. Here's my position, David. You will end this circus with the valet woman and her children. You will apologize to Amanda and recommit to your engagement. If you don't, I pull my investment and I take every client I've brought to your company with me. David took a deep breath. Mr. Wilson, I appreciate everything you've done for Thompson Technologies, but I won't be threatened regarding my children. They're not just children, Harold snapped. They're a liability, a scandal. Think of your shareholders. I'm also thinking of my company's integrity, David replied, sliding a folder across the table. This is a report on discriminatory hiring practices that have been happening under my watch. I've been blind to a lot of things, Mr. Wilson. Not anymore. Harold barely glanced at the folder. This is business, son. Don't confuse it with personal matters. They're not separate to me. Not anymore. David stood up. If you want to pull your investment, that's your right. But I will not abandon my daughters. That night, Keisha sat alone at her kitchen table, reviewing her rejected loan application. The bank's letter was polite but firm. Insufficient collateral and unstable income history made her too risky. The triplets' small toolkits sat on the counter, still in their packages. David had sent them yesterday, before everything fell apart. She hadn't given them to the girls yet. Her doorbell rang, startling her. It was almost 11 at night. Cautiously, she looked through the peephole. No one was there, but a large envelope lay on her welcome mat. She opened the door and picked it up. Inside were legal documents transferring ownership of a bright red Ferrari to Keisha Jones. Attached was a business proposal, neatly printed on Thompson Technologies' letterhead, outlining funding for Triple Z Auto Shop, with Keisha listed as majority owner. The last page was a handwritten note. Some promises aren't just words. They're chances to make things right. Keisha stared at the documents spread across her kitchen table. The Ferrari ownership papers were official. The sports car worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now belonged to her. And the business proposal outlined a complete plan for opening Triple Z Auto Shop, with David providing the startup funds. She picked up her phone and dialed Tamika's number. He gave me a Ferrari, she said when Tamika answered, and money to open my own shop. He did what now? Tamika's voice was loud with surprise. Girl, I'll be right over. 20 minutes later, Tamika sat at Keisha's table carefully examining the documents. This is real, she said, flipping through the pages. The car is legally yours. And this business proposal. He's offering $200,000 to start your shop, with you keeping 70% ownership. Keisha paced the small kitchen. It doesn't make sense. Why would he do this? Because he's trying to make things right, Tamika suggested, or because he feels guilty. Either way, you should talk to a lawyer before signing anything. The next morning at Thompson Technologies, David stood in front of his entire executive team. The conference room was packed, with some employees standing along the walls. Effective immediately, Sharon Davis is no longer with the company, David announced. We're conducting a full audit of all our hiring practices. Murmurs spread through the room. For the past 5 years, David continued, Thompson Technologies has been systematically rejecting qualified candidates based on discriminatory factors. This ends today. A woman in the back raised her hand. What exactly were these factors? Race, gender, and address, David answered directly, specifically targeting women and minorities applying for technical positions. The room fell silent. I take full responsibility, David said. This happened under my leadership. I failed to pay attention, and people were hurt because of it. We're implementing new hiring protocols effective immediately, and we're reaching out to every candidate who was unfairly rejected. Marcus stepped forward with a stack of folders. New guidelines are in these packets. Every department head needs to review them with their teams today. After the meeting, David returned to his office to find Marcus waiting. Harold Wilson called, Marcus reported. He's officially withdrawing his investment. David nodded, having expected this. What about the other investors? The ones who were connected to Wilson? 3 have already pulled out. Stock price is down 15% this morning. Keep me updated, David said, and set up those meetings with Ellington Capital and Green Future Investments. We need partners who believe in ethical business practices. Across town, Amanda sat in a trendy cafe with a journalist from Business Today magazine. It was devastating, Amanda said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Finding out the man I was going to marry had been hiding children from me. The journalist nodded sympathetically, recording every word. When did you discover the truth? At a public park, Amanda replied. I saw him with this woman, his employee, and these children who look exactly like him. He'd been lying to me for weeks, sneaking around to see them. And you had no idea these children existed? Amanda shook her head sadly. None. We were planning our wedding when I discovered his secret family. The journalist made notes. And what about the rumors that Thompson Technologies is facing internal issues? David seems distracted by his personal situation, Amanda said carefully. My father was a major investor, but he's concerned about the company's direction. Several clients have expressed similar worries. Later that day, Keisha met with Jerome Washington, a lawyer who lived in her apartment building. I reviewed everything, Jerome said, adjusting his glasses. The Ferrari transfer is legitimate. You now own a car worth around $300,000. The business proposal is solid too. He's offering startup capital in exchange for 30% ownership of the business. So what's the catch? Keisha asked. Honestly, I don't see one. You maintain controlling interest. The funds are provided up front, not as a loan. There's no requirement to pay him back if the business fails. That can't be right, Keisha insisted. Nobody gives money away like that. Jerome smiled. Rich people do, sometimes, especially when they have other motivations. Like guilt, Keisha muttered. Or genuine care for you and your daughters, Jerome suggested. But legally speaking, this is a clean offer. I'd take it. At the Grand Pavilion Hotel, Keisha arrived for her evening shift to find Mr. Peterson waiting by the employee entrance. Jones, I need a word, he said, leading her to his office. Once inside, he closed the door. I received a call from Amanda Wilson this morning. She demanded that you be fired immediately. Keisha's heart sank. I understand. I'll clean out my locker. No, you won't, Peterson said firmly. I told Ms. Wilson that the Grand Pavilion doesn't fire employees based on their personal lives. You're one of my best valets, Jones. Your job is safe. Keisha was stunned. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Don't thank me, he replied gruffly. Just keep doing your job well. And by the way, he handed her a business card. My brother owns a commercial space on Lincoln Avenue. It would make a good auto shop if you're interested. For the next 3 days, David respected Keisha's request for space. He didn't call or visit, but he wrote 3 separate letters addressed to Zoe, and Zara. In each one, he told them how special they were, how happy he was to be their father, and how he hoped to see them again soon. He included photos of himself at their age, showing the family resemblance. With each letter, he sent a small gift that matched their individual personalities, a miniature toolbox for Zoe, a puzzle for Zoe, and an art set for Zara. Meanwhile, Marcus arranged meetings with potential new investors. In a sleek downtown restaurant, they met with representatives from Ellington Capital. Your company took a public relations hit this week, said Vanessa Ellington, the firm's CEO. Stock is down and there are rumors about internal problems. We're making necessary changes, David explained, addressing discriminatory practices that should never have existed in our company. Vanessa studied him carefully. That's unusual. Most CEOs try to hide those issues, not fix them publicly. I'm not most CEOs, David replied. No, you're not, she agreed. You're also dealing with personal news coverage about children you apparently didn't know you had. David nodded. That's correct. I recently discovered I have 3 daughters. And you're supporting the mother in opening her own business? David looked surprised. How did you know about that? Vanessa smiled. We do our research, Mr. Thompson. Your Z auto shop investment is interesting. It shows you're willing to put money behind your beliefs. It's the right thing to do, David said simply. Ellington Capital is interested in companies with both innovation and integrity, Vanessa said. Let's continue this conversation next week. On Saturday morning, Keisha took her daughters to see the red Ferrari for the first time. It sat in a secure storage garage she had rented. Is this really yours, Mommy? Zoe asked, eyes wide. It really is, Keisha confirmed, running her hand along the smooth hood. Can we drive it? Zoe asked excitedly. Maybe a short ride, Keisha smiled. But this car is special. It's going to help us build something important. Later that day, Keisha drove to the commercial space Mr. Peterson had suggested. It was a large garage with an office area, located in a busy area with good visibility. She walked through it, imagining work bays filled with luxury cars, a clean reception area, and a special corner where the red Ferrari could be displayed. By Monday morning, Keisha had made her decision. She called David's direct number. It's Keisha, she said when he answered. I want to talk about the business proposal. They met at a quiet cafe near her apartment. David looked tired but smiled when he saw her. Thank you for meeting me, he said as they sat down. I've reviewed your offer with my lawyer, Keisha began. I'm accepting it, with one condition. Name it, David replied. I need absolute control over day-to-day operations. This has to be my business, not just on paper, but in reality. David nodded. Absolutely. I'll be a silent partner. The shop will be yours to run however you want. Keisha studied his face, looking for signs of deception but finding none. I found a location, she continued. On Lincoln Avenue. Good area, right size. Do you have a name for the shop? David asked. Keisha smiled for the first time. Z Auto Shop. For my girls. Zoe, and Zara. It's perfect, David agreed. When can I see them? The girls, I mean. Keisha's smile faded. They miss you. They ask about you every day. But David, I need to know this isn't temporary. They can't handle you disappearing again. I'm not going anywhere, David promised. Not this time. Keisha took a deep breath. Let's start with the business partnership. Get that established. Then we'll figure out the rest. David nodded, understanding her caution. Business partners first. I can work with that. As they finished their meeting, Keisha's phone buzzed with a text from work. It was Jenny from the hotel. Amanda Wilson on Warpath. Came asking for you. Peterson told her to leave. She's threatening to get him fired too. What did you do to her? At the same time, David received an email. He opened it and his face grew serious. What is it? Keisha asked. The Thompson Technologies Annual Charity Gala, David explained. It's in 2 weeks. And your name is on the invitation list as my business partner. He showed her the screen. Along with Amanda's, she's on the host committee. Keisha stared at the screen, her stomach sinking. The event would bring them all together in the same room, at the very hotel where it all began. Keisha handed the phone back to David. I can't go to that gala. I understand if you don't want to, David replied, but as a new business partner, it would help establish Triple Z Auto Shop. David, Amanda will be there. She's on the host committee. She already tried to get me fired from the hotel. Keisha shook her head. It would be a disaster. Think about it, David said gently. You don't need to decide right now. The following week moved quickly. Keisha signed the lease on the Lincoln Avenue property and gave notice at the Grand Pavilion Hotel. The red Ferrari was moved to the new garage space, which was now officially the home of Triple Z Auto Shop. On a sunny Tuesday morning, Keisha stood in the empty garage, watching as the first equipment deliveries arrived. 2 large tool cabinets, a hydraulic lift, diagnostic computers, and specialized equipment for luxury vehicles were wheeled in by delivery workers. Where do you want these, ma'am? Asked one of the delivery men, pointing to the tool cabinets. Against the back wall, Keisha directed, and the lift goes in Bay 1. As she supervised the setup, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Keisha Jones speaking, she answered professionally. Ms. Jones, this is Claire Mills. I own a Porsche 911 that needs some transmission work. My friend Tamika suggested your shop. Keisha smiled. Tamika was already sending clients her way. We're not officially open yet, but I'd be happy to take a look at your car. Wonderful, Claire replied. And is it true you're the woman who fixed the Ferrari at the Grand Pavilion? The one that David Thompson gave you? Keisha's smile faded. Word was spreading faster than she'd expected. Yes, that's me. I'll bring my Porsche tomorrow morning, Claire said. I'd rather have someone with your expertise handle it than the dealership. By the end of the day, Keisha had hired 2 experienced mechanics, Miguel Rodriguez and James Chen, both impressed by her knowledge and the high-end equipment being installed. I've worked on Ferraris before, Miguel said during his interview, but I've never seen a shop set up specifically for luxury cars like this. That's our niche, Keisha explained. High-end vehicles deserve specialized care. James examined the red Ferrari displayed in the corner. This is the famous car, right? The one from the hotel? Keisha nodded. That's right. It's our mascot now. At Thompson Technologies, David and Marcus worked tirelessly to stabilize the company after Harold Wilson's investment withdrawal. The stock price had fallen 20%, but was slowly recovering as news of the company's ethical reforms spread. Ellington Capital is in, Marcus announced, entering David's office. They're offering $25 million, more than Wilson's investment. David let out a relieved breath. That's excellent news. Any word from Green Future? They want another meeting next week, but signs are positive. Marcus sat down. The bad news is that Wilson took Cooper Electronics and Bennett Systems with him when he left. That's about $15 million in annual contracts. We'll find new clients, David assured him. Ones who care about more than just who we know. Amanda's magazine interview comes out tomorrow, Marcus warned. PR is preparing responses. David nodded grimly. Let's focus on facts, not emotions. We acknowledge the personal situation without details and emphasize the company's commitment to moving forward. After Marcus left, David opened his desk drawer and took out a small photo of the triplets that Keisha had given him. They were smiling at the camera, 3 identical faces with his eyes and their mother's determination. He hadn't seen them in over a week, the longest time since discovering they existed. He picked up his phone and called Keisha. "Hey," he said when she answered, "how's the shop coming along?" "Good," she replied. "Equipment is here. I've hired 2 mechanics. We already have 3 clients scheduled." "That's great," David said. "Listen, I was wondering if I could see the girls this weekend. Maybe take them to the zoo on Saturday." There was a pause. "They miss you," Keisha admitted. "They keep asking why you stopped coming." "I miss them too," David said. "I've been giving you space like you asked." "Saturday works," Keisha decided. 10 in the morning. They'll be excited. On Saturday, David arrived at Keisha's apartment building precisely at 10 o'clock. The triplets burst out the door when they saw him. "Daddy!" they shouted in unison, running to hug him. "My amazing girls," David said, kneeling to embrace them. "I've missed you so much." "We made you pictures," Zara said, holding up a drawing of what appeared to be the red Ferrari. "I love it," David smiled. "Are you ready for our zoo day?" Keisha stood in the doorway watching the reunion. She was dressed in work clothes, jeans and a button-up shirt with the new Triple Z logo embroidered on the pocket. "They've been up since 6, she told David, too excited to sleep. "Will you come with us?" David asked her. Keisha shook her head. "I have to meet a client at the shop. But thanks." At the Lincoln Park Zoo, David helped the girls feed the giraffes, laughed at the monkeys, and patiently answered endless questions about each animal. During lunch at the zoo cafe, Zoe suddenly asked a question that caught him off guard. "Are you still friends with the mean lady?" David put down his sandwich. "You mean Amanda?" "No, I'm not friends with her anymore. She said bad things about us," Zoe remembered. "She was wrong," David said firmly. "You 3 are the best thing that ever happened to me." "Mommy says we're not posed to hate people," Zara said thoughtfully. "But we don't like her." David smiled sadly. "That's okay. You don't have to like everyone." While David spent the day with the girls, Keisha worked at the shop, finalizing the setup and servicing Claire's Porsche. As she worked under the car, she heard the garage door open. "We're not officially open yet," she called out, sliding from beneath the vehicle. Tamika stood there holding 2 coffee cups. "Not even for your best friend who's sending you clients?" Keisha laughed, wiping her hands on a rag. "Especially for you." "Thanks for the Claire referral." "No problem. Her husband is my boss, and he was complaining about Porsche service prices." Tamika handed Keisha a coffee. "So, you ready for the big charity gala?" Keisha groaned. "I'm not going." "Yes, you are," Tamika insisted. "You can't hide from Amanda Wilson forever. Plus, it's a business opportunity. All those rich people with expensive cars will be there." "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," Keisha protested. Tamika sipped her coffee. "That's a fixable problem." The next day, a delivery arrived at Keisha's apartment. Inside the large box was an elegant blue evening gown with a note from David. "For the gala. No pressure, but you'd represent Triple Z Auto Shop beautifully. Business expense, not personal gift." Keisha laid the dress on her bed, admiring the simple but sophisticated design. It was exactly her size. "What's that, Mommy?" Zoe asked, peering into the bedroom. "A dress for a fancy party," Keisha explained. "Are we going too?" Zoe asked excitedly. "No, sweetie. This is a grown-up work party. Mrs. Rodriguez will watch you that night." The triplets looked disappointed until Keisha added, "But you can help me decide if I should wear it." The girls climbed onto the bed, carefully touching the soft fabric. "It's pretty like the sky," Zara said. "You'll look like a princess," Zoe decided. "Daddy will think you're beautiful," Zoe added innocently. Keisha smiled at her daughters. This isn't about Daddy. It's about our new business. But later, after the girls were asleep, she tried on the dress. It fit perfectly. Looking in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. For years, she'd lived in work uniforms and practical clothes, focused entirely on survival and raising her daughters. The woman in the mirror looked confident, successful, like someone who belonged at a fancy gala. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. Amanda is making demands about the seating arrangements for the gala. She wants to keep you at a distance. I refused. Your choice if you attend, but you'll have a place of honor as my business partner if you do. Keisha stared at the message, her resolve hardening. Amanda Wilson had mocked her skills, called her daughters horrible names, and tried to get her fired. Maybe it was time to stop hiding. She typed back, "I'll be there." As the day of the gala approached, final preparations for Triple Z Auto Shop continued. The sign was installed above the entrance, a stylish logo featuring 3 interlocking Zs. The website went live, showcasing Keisha's expertise and the shop's specialization in luxury vehicles. The red Ferrari remained prominently displayed, already attracting attention from passers-by. The evening before the gala, Keisha's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Jenny at the hotel. "Amanda just arrived for gala setup. She's already asking if you'll be working tomorrow night. I told her you quit." She smiled. A minute later, another text came through from David. "Amanda just arrived with her father. He's demanding to speak with me about you before the event starts." Keisha took a deep breath and looked again at the blue dress hanging on her closet door. Tomorrow night she would face Amanda Wilson again, not as a valet, but as a business owner and David's partner. The thought was terrifying, but she wouldn't back down. "Game on," she whispered to herself. The Thompson Technologies annual charity gala transformed the Grand Pavilion Hotel into a glittering showcase of wealth and power. Crystal chandeliers shone above tables decorated with white roses and silver candelabras. A string quartet played softly in one corner as Chicago's business elite arrived in designer clothes and expensive jewelry. Keisha sat in her car outside the hotel, gripping the steering wheel. She had driven the modest Toyota instead of the Ferrari, not wanting to make her entrance too flashy. The blue dress David sent hugged her figure perfectly, and Tamika had come over earlier to help with her hair and makeup. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, checking her reflection once more in the rearview mirror. As she walked toward the entrance, memories flooded back, standing at this same door as a valet, taking keys, being invisible to the wealthy guests. Now she was entering as an invited guest, a business owner. At the registration table, a young woman checked her name against the list. "Keisha Jones, Triple Z Auto Shop," Keisha said with more confidence than she felt. The woman's eyes widened slightly. "Yes, Ms. Jones, you're seated at Table 1. Table 1 meant the main table, with David and other VIPs. Keisha nodded her thanks and entered the ballroom. Eyes turned as she walked in. Some people whispered behind their hands. She recognized several guests who had watched her fix Amanda's Ferrari months ago. David spotted her immediately and crossed the room to greet her. He looked handsome in his tuxedo but tired with dark circles under his eyes. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Thank you." "I'm not hiding anymore," Keisha replied. "How did the talk with Harold Wilson go?" David's expression darkened. "Not well. He made threats about the company, about the children. Marcus recorded the whole thing." "Recorded it? Why?" "Insurance," David explained. "Wilson crossed a line. You'll understand later." Before Keisha could ask more questions, Amanda appeared at David's elbow. She wore a stunning red dress and a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "David, darling, they need you for photos with the charity director." Her gaze slid to Keisha, dismissive and cold. "Oh, hello, I didn't recognize you without the uniform." "Amanda," David warned. "What?" "I'm being civil." Amanda tugged at David's arm. "Photos now. Daddy's waiting." David shot Keisha an apologetic look as Amanda pulled him away. Left alone, Keisha made her way to the bar and ordered a sparkling water. "You're the Ferrari woman, right?" asked an older gentleman standing nearby. Keisha turned. "I'm Keisha Jones, owner of Triple Z Auto Shop." The man smiled, extending his hand. "Richard Ellington, my wife Vanessa is investing in Thompson Technologies. Heard you're quite the mechanic." "I am," Keisha confirmed, shaking his hand. "We have a collection of vintage sports cars gathering dust," Richard continued. "Need someone who understands their value to service them." "Here's my card," Keisha said, reaching into her small clutch purse. "We specialize in luxury vehicles." By the time the dinner bell rang, Keisha had handed out 6 business cards and scheduled 2 appointments. Perhaps this gala wasn't a bad idea after all. Her confidence evaporated when she found her assigned seat. Despite being told she was at table 1, her name card sat at a distant table near the kitchen doors, surrounded by hotel staff names. "There must be a mistake," she said to a nearby server. The young man looked uncomfortable. Ms. Wilson adjusted some seating arrangements this afternoon. Keisha felt her face burn with embarrassment. This was a deliberate slight, meant to humiliate her in front of everyone. For a moment she considered leaving. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and sat down. "Hello," she greeted the hotel employees at her table. "I'm Keisha Jones." "We know who you are," said an older woman with kind eyes. "I'm Marta from housekeeping. We're all rooting for you, honey." Across the room, David searched for Keisha, frowning when he spotted her at the far table. He started toward her, but was stopped by Marcus. "Speech time," Marcus reminded him. "Don't worry about the seating. We'll fix it later." David took the podium as the main course was being served. The room quieted as he tapped the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thompson Technologies annual charity gala." He began with the usual thanks to sponsors and acknowledgement of the night's charitable cause, a technology education program for underprivileged youth. Then his tone shifted. "Tonight is about more than raising money. It's about integrity and accountability. For the past month, Thompson Technologies has been in the news for reasons both personal and professional." The room grew completely silent. This was not the standard CEO speech they had expected. "I recently discovered that our company has been systematically excluding qualified candidates based on gender, race, and background. This happened under my leadership, and I take full responsibility." Murmurs spread through the crowd. At the Wilson family table, Harold's face darkened with anger. Amanda whispered furiously to her mother. "One of those candidates was Keisha Jones," David continued, gesturing toward her table. "A brilliant mechanic who applied to our automotive division multiple times. Each time, despite her exceptional qualifications, she was rejected because of an unwritten policy." More whispers. Keisha felt all eyes turn to her. "Tonight, I'm announcing the Promise Initiative," David said. "A new program providing funding for minority-owned businesses with Triple Z Auto Shop as its first recipient." At the word recipient, Amanda stood up suddenly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "How convenient!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the room. "He rejects her job applications, then suddenly discovers she has his children, and now she gets special funding?" Gasps echoed around the ballroom. Keisha froze, mortified. "Amanda, sit down," David said firmly into the microphone. "Everyone should know the truth," Amanda continued, moving toward the podium. "You threw away our engagement for a valet who showed up with convenient triplets. How do you even know they're yours?" The room fell completely silent. David's face hardened. "That's enough," he said quietly, but the microphone carried his voice. "Ms. Wilson?" Marcus called from the side of the room, holding up his phone. "Perhaps you'd like to hear what your father said to David earlier today?" "I have it recorded." Harold Wilson stood up. "You wouldn't dare." Marcus pressed a button on his phone, and Harold's voice filled the ballroom through the sound system. "Those little half-breed brats will never be welcome in our circles." Pay the woman off if you must, but keep those children hidden where they belong." Shocked expressions appeared on every face. Harold Wilson lunged toward Marcus, but security stepped forward. David spoke again into the microphone. "Harold Wilson's investment has been returned in full. Thompson Technologies will no longer do business with Wilson Enterprises or anyone who shares their discriminatory views." He paused, then removed a small box from his pocket. Opening it, he took out a diamond ring. "Amanda," he said, walking to her table, "I believe this belongs to you. Our engagement is over. And yes, to answer your question, I know the girls are mine because they have my mother's eyes, my smile, and most importantly, they have the kindness and dignity their mother taught them, something you could learn from." He placed the ring on the table in front of a stunned Amanda. "The Ferrari belongs to Keisha now, as promised. And my heart. It always did, even when I didn't know it." The entire room seemed to hold its breath as David walked directly to Keisha's table and extended his hand to her. "Ms. Jones, I believe you're at the wrong table. Would you join me where you belong?" Keisha hesitated only a moment before placing her hand in his. Together they walked to the main table as Amanda stormed out, followed by her parents. As David helped Keisha into her seat, she whispered, "That was quite a speech." "I meant every word," he replied. "No more hiding. No more pretending." Throughout the rest of the evening, people came to their table to introduce themselves to Keisha. Business cards were exchanged, connections made. When the gala ended near midnight, Keisha had 15 potential clients and 3 possible investors interested in Triple Z Auto Shop. Outside the hotel, as they waited for the valet to bring their cars, Amanda appeared one last time. Her makeup was smeared from crying, but her voice was cold and steady. "You'll regret this, David," she said. "By tomorrow morning, I'll own enough shares of Thompson Technologies to have you removed as CEO." Without waiting for a response, she climbed into her waiting car and sped away. David looked at Keisha. "Are you worried?" She shook her head. "No. I've learned that some promises are worth keeping even when they're difficult. You kept yours." "There will be consequences," David warned. "The Wilsons have a lot of power in this town." "So do we," Keisha replied. "We just don't know it yet." The morning after the gala, David sat in his home office surrounded by screens displaying business news channels. Every headline featured some variation of the same story. Thompson Technologies CEO ends engagement in dramatic gala scene. Or Wilson investment. Pulled after discriminatory comments revealed. His phone rang. It was Marcus. "Have you seen the market?" Marcus asked without greeting. "I'm looking at it now," David replied, watching the numbers on his screen. Thompson Technologies stock had dropped 23% in the first hour of trading. "It's bad, but not unexpected." "Harold Wilson is calling every investor he knows. Amanda's been on 3 morning shows already, playing the victim." Marcus paused. "How's Keisha handling this?" David sighed. "I haven't spoken to her since last night. I wanted to give her space to process everything." Just then, his other line beeped. "It's the board secretary. Emergency meeting in 2 hours." "I'll be there," Marcus promised. "Don't worry. We have a plan." Across town, Keisha woke to the sound of her doorbell ringing repeatedly. She checked the clock. 6:30 in the morning. The triplets were still asleep. Peering through the peephole, she saw not a person but a camera lens. She stepped back quickly. "Miss Jones!" called a voice from outside. "Chicago Morning News. We'd like a statement about your relationship with David Thompson." Keisha's phone buzzed with a text from her neighbor. "There are 4 news vans outside the building. What's going on?" Heart pounding, she peeked through her window blinds. Reporters stood clustered near the building entrance, some with cameras, others with microphones. Her phone rang. It was David. "There are reporters outside my apartment," she said immediately. "I know, I'm sorry," David replied. "They're outside my place too. I'm sending security to help get you and the girls out safely." "Security? David, what is happening?" "Amanda went on Channel 7 this morning. She claimed our relationship started while I was still engaged, that you used the children to trap me." His voice was tight with anger. "It's getting ugly, Keisha." 20 minutes later, the triplets were awake and confused by their mother's nervous energy as she packed their backpacks. "Why are we going to Aunt Tamika's so early?" Zoe asked, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "It's a surprise day," Keisha said, trying to sound cheerful, "and there's a nice man coming to help us get to the car." On cue, her phone buzzed. "Ms. Jones, this is Ray from Executive Security. I'm at your back entrance. The car is ready whenever you are." The security guard, a tall man in a dark suit, led them through the service exit to a waiting SUV with tinted windows. As they pulled away, Keisha saw the reporters rushing toward the vehicle, cameras flashing. "Where to, ma'am?" the driver asked. Keisha hesitated. "Triple Z Auto Shop on Lincoln Avenue." In the Thompson Technologies boardroom, David faced 11 stern faces around the polished table. Harold Wilson sat at the far end, having called in favors to attend despite no longer being an investor. "This emergency session will come to order," said Eleanor Winters, the board chairwoman. "We're here to discuss recent events and their impact on the company." Harold Wilson spoke first. "The stock has lost nearly a quarter of its value in one day. Thompson's personal scandal has become a company crisis." "That's not entirely accurate," Marcus interjected, passing folders to each board member. "Our stock was already down 15% after Mr. Wilson pulled his investment last week. Today's additional drop was expected and temporary." Eleanor reviewed the documents. "These projections show recovery within 2 weeks. "Wishful thinking," Harold scoffed. "The company needs stable leadership, not a CEO distracted by personal drama." "Is that why you've been buying up shares this morning?" David asked calmly. Harold's eyes narrowed. "I believe in protecting my daughter's interests." "By attempting a hostile takeover," David noted. "You've purchased 6% of available shares since the market opened." 7.5%, Harold corrected with a cold smile. "Combined with sympathetic board members, that's enough to call for a vote of no confidence in your leadership." The room fell silent. Several board members shifted uncomfortably. "I move to vote on removing David Thompson as CEO," said George Phillips, a longtime Wilson ally on the board. "Second," added another member quickly. Eleanor sighed. "Very well. Before we vote, are there any final statements?" Marcus stood. "Actually, yes. I'd like to introduce our newest investor." He walked to the door and opened it. Vanessa Ellington entered, her presence commanding immediate attention. As CEO of Ellington Capital, she controlled one of the largest investment funds in the country. "Good morning," she said, taking a seat. "Ellington Capital has purchased 12% of Thompson Technologies shares over the past hour. We fully support the current leadership and ethical direction of the company." Harold Wilson's face reddened. "This is outrageous! You can't bring in a new investor during a board vote." "Actually, we can," Eleanor corrected, reviewing the paperwork Vanessa had handed her. "Ms. Ellington now holds enough shares to have voting rights. The vote will proceed as planned." When the votes were counted, David remained CEO by a margin of just 2 votes. At Triple Z Auto Shop, Keisha tried to create a normal day for her daughters. They colored at a small table in the office while she and her mechanics worked on client vehicles. James, one of her mechanics, entered the office looking concerned. "Boss, there are reporters outside. They're talking to customers in the parking lot." Keisha looked through the blinds. At least 6 reporters stood near the entrance, approaching anyone who walked toward the shop. "What do they want?" she asked, though she already knew. "The whole David Thompson story," James replied. "One of them offered me $500 for inside information about you." "What did you say?" James grinned. "I told him all I know is that you're the best mechanic in Chicago and he should make an appointment if his car needs work." Keisha smiled gratefully. "Thank you." Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "Board vote finished. Still CEO. How are you and the girls?" She replied, "At the shop. Reporters here too. Girls are confused." His response came quickly. I'll be there in 20 minutes. True to his word, David arrived, though he had to push through a small crowd of reporters to enter the shop. The questions followed him. Did you know about the children before the engagement? Is it true you've given Keisha Jones a Ferrari worth $300,000? Has a paternity test confirmed the children are yours? David ignored them all, entering the shop and locking the door behind him. The triplets ran to him immediately. "Daddy!" He knelt to hug them, then looked up at Keisha. "I'm sorry about all this. I never wanted to put you and the girls through a media circus." "Is it always going to be like this?" she asked. "No," he promised. "It'll die down once they find a new story. But we need to decide how to handle it now." That evening, after the girls were asleep in the shop's office, David and Keisha sat talking in the garage. The red Ferrari gleamed under the overhead lights. "The media loves the Ferrari angle," David admitted. "It's become a symbol of our whole story." "I've had 3 clients cancel appointments today," Keisha said. "They don't want to be connected to the drama." "And 5 new ones called for appointments after seeing the shop on the news," David countered. "The publicity isn't all bad." Keisha sighed. "It's not about the business, David. It's about the girls. They heard someone ask if you're really their father. They don't understand why people are questioning that." David's face softened. "We'll protect them. Whatever it takes." "How did the board meeting go?" Keisha changed the subject. "Wilson nearly succeeded," David explained. "If Ellington Capital hadn't stepped in, I would have been removed as CEO." "Can he try again?" "Not easily. Vanessa Ellington made it clear that her investment depends on me remaining in charge." Keisha nodded. "So we survived day 1. "Barely," David agreed. "But the stock is already showing signs of recovery. By next week, this will be old news." "I hope you're right," Keisha said, looking toward the office where her daughters slept. By the end of the week, much as David predicted, the media frenzy had begun to subside. Thomson Technologies stock had recovered most of its losses as markets responded positively to the company's ethical reforms and new partnership with Ellington Capital. Amanda made one final attempt to damage Keisha's reputation by leaking information to tabloid journalists about Keisha's financial struggles as a single mother. Instead of generating criticism, however, the story created sympathy. Working mothers across Chicago voiced support for Keisha on social media. On Friday evening, David brought dinner to Triple Z Auto Shop, where Keisha was finishing work on a client's Bentley. "I have news," he said as they ate pizza with the girls. "Amanda sold all her shares in the company. She's leaving Chicago, moving to Boston with her parents." Keisha looked relieved. "So it's over?" "This part is," David nodded. "We can start moving forward now." "Forward to what?" Keisha asked. David looked at the triplets, happily eating pizza and chattering about their day at daycare. Then he looked at Keisha, grease still on her hands from working on the Bentley. "To whatever we want to build together," he said simply, "as a family." 1 year had passed since that evening in the auto shop. The words, "building together as a family," had proven true in ways none of them could have imagined. Triple Z Auto Shop was celebrating its first anniversary with an open house event. The once empty garage had transformed into Chicago's premier luxury auto repair destination. 10 employees now worked under Keisha's direction, including 4 young mechanics from underprivileged neighborhoods who were part of the shop's training program. "Ms. Jones, where should we put the extra chairs?" asked Carlos, one of the trainees, a 19-year-old from South Chicago with natural talent for engine work. "Along the back wall, please," Keisha replied. She wore a crisp navy blue suit with the Triple Z logo, 3 interlocking Zs forming a stylish pattern, embroidered on the pocket. "People will want to see the Ferrari during the presentation." The famous red Ferrari still occupied its special corner of the shop, gleaming under spotlights. A small plaque beside it told the story of how Keisha had fixed it at the Grand Pavilion Hotel. Customers loved hearing the tale while waiting for their vehicles. The shop door opened, and David entered with the triplets, now 5 years old. The girls wore matching purple dresses but different colored shoes, their tradition for telling them apart. "Mommy!" they called, running to Keisha. "We made decorations for the party." "These look wonderful," Keisha said, examining the colorful paper chains the girls had created. "Where should we hang them?" Zoe, always the leader, pointed toward the front desk. "Over there, so everyone sees them first." "Good thinking," Keisha agreed. David smiled as he watched them. The past year had brought many changes. Thompson Technologies had fully recovered from the Wilson scandal and was now recognized as a leader in ethical business practices. The Promise Initiative had funded 30 minority-owned businesses across Chicago. More importantly, his relationship with Keisha had evolved naturally. They had taken things slowly, focusing first on co-parenting and their business partnership. 6 months ago, Keisha had finally agreed to a proper date, dinner at a restaurant without the girls. 2 months after that, David had moved into a new house that they all shared, with a garage big enough for Keisha to tinker with projects at home. "The guests will start arriving in 1 hour," David reminded her. "Are you nervous about your speech?" "A little," Keisha admitted. "I've never spoken to a big crowd before." "You'll be amazing," he assured her. "Just talk about your journey like we practiced." The anniversary celebration was more than just a party. It was also a recruitment event for the shop's training program. Keisha had invited students from local high schools to learn about careers in automotive repair. "Miss Jones?" A young woman approached shyly. "I'm Melissa from Carter High School. I was wondering if girls can apply for the training program too?" "Absolutely," Keisha said warmly. "Half our trainees are young women. Do you like working with cars?" Melissa nodded eagerly. "I fix my dad's truck all the time, but he says girls don't become mechanics." "Well, this girl did," Keisha gestured around the thriving shop. "And you can too." As the event began, the space filled with clients, community members, and students. In the corner, Zoe had set up a small workbench where she and her sisters showed other children how to fix toy cars with plastic tools. "They're just like their mother," said Marcus, who had arrived with his wife. "Especially Zoe. She has Keisha's confidence." David nodded proudly. "Zoe's the detail person, nothing gets past her, and Zara's our creative one. She's already designing cars she wants to build someday." "The Thompson Jones engineering team," Marcus laughed. "Watch out, world." At 2 o'clock, David tapped a glass for attention. The crowd quieted as he stepped onto a small platform. "Welcome everyone to the 1-year anniversary of Triple Z Auto Shop," he began. "When we opened these doors 12 months ago, some people doubted a new specialty shop could succeed. Some doubted a woman could run a high-end auto repair business." He smiled at Keisha. "Those people didn't know Keisha Jones. I'd like to introduce our founder and CEO to tell you her story." The crowd applauded as Keisha took David's place on the platform. She looked nervous for only a moment before her natural confidence emerged. "Thank you all for coming," she began. 1 year ago, I was parking cars as a valet at the Grand Pavilion Hotel. Today, I'm fixing Ferraris and Bentleys for some of those same people who handed me their keys." People laughed appreciatively. "My journey wasn't easy," Keisha continued. "As a single mother of triplet girls, just surviving took all my energy. But I never gave up on my dream of working with cars like my grandfather taught me." She gestured to the red Ferrari. "That car changed my life. Not because it's expensive, but because it gave me the chance to show my skills when nobody believed in me. One promise led to another, and here we are." The crowd listened intently as Keisha explained the shop's training program and their plans to expand to a second location, the former Wilson family garage that had been transferred to Keisha as part of a legal settlement after recordings of Harold's discriminatory comments went public. "We don't just fix cars here," she concluded. "We're building futures for our employees, our trainees, and my daughters, who will inherit this business someday. Thank you for being part of our journey." The audience erupted in applause. David stepped back onto the platform beside Keisha, taking the microphone. "There's one more thing we need to celebrate today. he said, his voice suddenly serious. Keisha Jones isn't just an extraordinary mechanic and businesswoman, she's an extraordinary mother and partner. He turned to face her directly. This past year has shown me what truly matters in life. It's not business success or social status, it's family, integrity, and second chances. The triplets moved closer to the platform, their eyes wide with excitement. They clearly knew what was coming. "Keisha," David continued, reaching into his pocket and pulling out a small box. "You've made me happier than I ever thought possible." He knelt on one knee, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Will you marry me?" The shop fell completely silent. Keisha looked at David, then at their daughters who were bouncing with anticipation. "Say yes, Mommy," Zoe called out, unable to contain herself. Keisha laughed. "Yes," she said simply. "Of course, yes." The crowd cheered as David slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to embrace her. The triplets rushed forward, and David lifted them up one by one to join the hug. 2 weeks later, the Grand Pavilion Hotel hosted its annual Business Leaders Gala once again. This time, Keisha arrived not as a valet, but as the keynote speaker. Mr. Peterson, now the hotel director, personally welcomed her at the entrance. "Jones," he said with a genuine smile, "who would have thought the valet with 3 little girls would return as our guest of honor?" "Not me," Keisha admitted. "Life is full of surprises." Inside the ballroom, she recognized many faces, some who had laughed when Amanda mocked her, others who had witnessed her humiliation. Now they greeted her with respect, congratulating her on Triple Z Auto Shop's success. When it was time for her speech, Keisha approached the podium with confidence. David and the triplets watched proudly from the front table. "1 year ago in this very hotel," she began, "someone challenged me to open the hood of a Ferrari, never believing I could fix what was broken inside. That moment taught me something important. Recognition of skill should transcend appearance, and justice sometimes comes in unexpected ways." She spoke for 15 minutes about breaking barriers in male-dominated fields and the importance of creating opportunities for others. When she finished, the room rose in a standing ovation. As David joined her on stage with their daughters, the red Ferrari keys hung in a frame behind them, a symbol of a promise kept and lives forever changed. Later that evening, the Thompson-Jones family drove home together in the famous red Ferrari, with the girls securely buckled in the back seat. Keisha was behind the wheel, as always. "Can we get ice cream?" Zara asked hopefully. "It's almost bedtime," Keisha reminded her. "Please?" All 3 girls pleaded in unison. David laughed. "I think we have something to celebrate. Ice cream is definitely allowed on engagement nights." Keisha smiled, steering the Ferrari toward their favorite ice cream shop. As they drove through the city streets, she caught David watching her. "What?" she asked. "Just thinking about how far we've come," he replied. "From that night with the broken Ferrari to here." "We fixed more than just a car," Keisha agreed, glancing at their daughters in the rearview mirror. "We fixed a family." The red Ferrari continued through the Chicago night, carrying not just passengers but a future built on kept promises, second chances, and the unexpected journey that had brought them all together. If you enjoyed today's video, I'm sure you'll love the next one. Don't waste time. Just click on the screen.